Hey everyone. So today we're taking a deep dive into something I think we all care about, especially if you're in a leadership role.
Oh, yeah.
It's all about the employee experience, reimagining it.
Okay, I like it.
We've got some awesome research to unpack, and hopefully by the end, our listeners will have some solid advice on how to keep their employees happy and attract new talent.
Well, that's the golden ticket, isn't it?
Totally. The research you sent over is really interesting. It's like, businesses are always obsessed with customer experience, that whole CX thing, right?
Yeah.
So the idea is organizations should be just as focused on EX, employee experience,
Yeah.
if they want to land and keep great people.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is that this whole EX thing, it seems particularly important for government agencies.
Really?
Yeah. There was this Deloitte report you sent over, and it actually highlighted how the government is, well, kind of behind the curve.
Behind the curve, Al.
When it comes to attracting and engaging talent compared to the private sector,
Oh, interesting.
their satisfaction and commitment scores aren't really where they could be.
It's almost like there's this idea out there that, like, working for the government is, I don't know, like less exciting.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of that, for sure.
But the mission is so important.
Right, and that's actually why this idea of applying, like, design thinking.
You mean like the stuff they use for products?
Exactly. Applying that to the employee journey, to their experience, it's so powerful.
Okay, I'm starting to see it.
It's like understanding what actually matters to people, at each stage of their work life and making those things better.
So let's break down those stages then. Your notes talk about 4 big decisions that employees make. There's the decision to join, to contribute,
Yep.
to improve,
Keep going.
and then to transition.
Exactly. It's almost like, choose your own adventure, but for your career.
I like that. So that first one, deciding to join, that's got to be critical, especially with how competitive it is to find good talent these days.
Oh, it's more than critical. It's everything.
It's like you never get a second chance to make a first impression.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
I mean, it's true for dating, it's true for job hunting. That first interaction matters.
It really does. And, making the application process super simple, that was a big thing that kept coming up in the research.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like in China, L'Oreal ditched the whole traditional resume thing.
Well, no resumes?
Nope. They're using open-ended questions and, get this, algorithms to find the right fit.
Wow. So it's like using tech to do that first screening.
That's exactly it. And it's part of this bigger shift, using tech to make the whole experience better. I mean, think about it.
Like ordering a coffee.
Yeah. Or booking a flight. It's all about using apps to make things easier. Why not for job applications?
Makes sense. But it's not just about making it easy, right? You sent over this amazing example of the Navy. They're using a game to recruit, like, super specialized talent.
Yeah, Project Architeuthis.
It's like, forget boring job descriptions. They made this whole alternate reality game so engaging.
And it worked. It really tapped into what their target audience, those cryptology folks, are interested in.
So, lesson learned. Think outside the box when it comes to job discovery. It's not just job boards anymore.
Absolutely. And there was another cool example you sent. Remember the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the CFPB?
Yeah.
They put their tech job ads, get this, in the website source code.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah.
That's genius.
Only the kind of people they wanted to attract would even find it.
I love it. But, okay, so even if you nail the recruiting part and get someone to join,
Right.
you still got to keep them engaged, right?
That's where it gets really interesting.
Which brings us to decision number 2, the decision to contribute. And that's about way more than just salary and perks.
Seems so much more.
It's about the whole environment,
Yeah.
making people feel like they're valued, like they have the power to do things.
And that they're connected to something bigger than themselves.
So it's not just what they're getting from the job, but also what they're giving to it.
Absolutely. It's about purpose. And, that research we were talking about, it really stresses this need for clarity, helping employees understand how their work contributes to the bigger picture.
Like that warm, fuzzy feeling you get when you know you've made a difference.
Exactly. And, the USPS, they did this really well.
Oh, how so?
They have this Moments That Matter program where they highlight how, like, individual employees positively impact customers' lives.
So it's not just the grand gestures, it's the everyday stuff too.
It all adds up. But, it's not just about feeling good. It's also about giving employees what they need to actually do their best work.
Right, making it easier for them.
Yeah, like simplifying things, freeing up their time so they can focus on the important stuff.
Yeah, so less paperwork, more purpose.
You got it. Think about it. We're bombarded with information these days. Tech can either make that worse or
make it better.
exactly. Like there was this Australian news company that created like a single super simple interface for their employees.
No more clicking through a million screens.
No more. They cut down on clicks and even training time. Imagine how much more productive they were.
Okay, so we've got attracting talent, making them feel motivated to contribute.
Yep.
But what about helping people grow and develop their skills? That's that third decision, right? The decision to improve.
Absolutely. And you know, in today's world, everything's changing so fast. Learning and development are like more important than ever.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But the old ways of doing things, you know, those day-long workshops.
Death by PowerPoint.
Right. They're just not cutting it anymore.
So what's the alternative?
Well, one of the sources you sent over talked about minimum viable training.
Minimum viable training.
Yeah, it's a cool idea. Basically, focus on the essential skills and deliver the training in a way that's more agile on demand.
So like bite-sized learning people can use right away.
That's the idea. And
Okay.
there's a great example of this in action. The UK government's DWP Digital Academy, they use a bootcamp model. So they prioritize those core technical skills first.
Makes sense.
And then they let people learn more on the job. It's like learning by doing, you know?
Yeah, so much better. And speaking of learning by doing, you know that example of UPS using sensors to track how their drivers are doing?
Yeah, and give them feedback in real time.
It's amazing.
It's all about personalized development.
Oh, and you mentioned NASA too, right? They had that Sidekick project using augmented reality
Just
to
guide astronauts through all those complicated tasks.
It's like having a virtual coach in space. But okay, not everyone's going to have like NASA-level tech at their disposal. So what about more everyday ways to create those learning opportunities?
Well, that's where things like micro-learning platforms come in.
Okay, yeah.
Or, you know, peer-to-peer knowledge sharing. It's about making learning part of the work itself, not something separate.
So making it more accessible, more relevant.
And more engaging, right.
Exactly. You know, ICE, the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency,
Oh, yeah. What about them?
they actually used employee segmentation. Remember we talked about that? They used it to tailor how they delivered training for a new technology platform.
Smart.
They figured out what would work for different types of employees and designed the training to fit.
That makes a lot of sense.
And it worked. People were more likely to actually use the new tech because the training was good.
That's a big win.
Okay, so attracting talent, creating a culture where they want to contribute, and making sure they have chances to learn and grow.
It's a lot.
But then there's the employees who decide to move on for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And that brings us to decision number 4, the decision to transition or recommit.
You know, this part is really interesting because these days people are always moving around, right? Turnover is basically inevitable.
Yeah, everyone's looking for the next big thing.
So the challenge for organizations isn't really about stopping people from leaving.
It's about making those transitions good for everyone.
Exactly. Good for the employee and good for the organization.
Right.
And one of the big things that kept coming up in the research, this idea of job sculpting.
Job sculpting.
Basically, you tailor the roles to fit the employee's interests and passions, give them some flexibility, let them explore projects outside their main responsibilities, even if it's just a few hours a week.
So making their job more engaging, you know, customized to them.
Exactly. There's this really cool example. The State Department, they have this platform called Midas.
Midas.
Yeah. It's this online platform that connects employees with projects outside their normal job description. They can use their skills and passions in all sorts of ways.
I love that. It's about making the most of all that untapped potential.
Totally. And it's about acknowledging that not everyone wants to, you know, climb that traditional career ladder.
Right. Some people are happy doing their own thing, maybe moving sideways, working on projects.
Exactly. Some people want to explore different careers completely.
So how do you handle those more, well, fluid career paths?
That's the challenge, right? I think it's about creating opportunities for people to gain new skills and have new experiences, even if those experiences take them outside the organization for a while.
It's almost like encouraging people to leave and come back, you know,
Yeah.
with new skills and fresh ideas.
Like a boomerang. And there are organizations that are really good at this. The Gates Foundation, for example, they have this amazing platform to keep former employees engaged.
Oh, cool.
You know, keep them updated on news, training, and connect them with others in the sector. It's good for everyone involved.
Okay, so we've covered a lot here. We talked about the 4 big decisions employees make throughout their careers and how organizations can use like design thinking to create a better experience. But
Right.
I wanted to circle back to something you mentioned earlier, about government agencies lagging behind. Why do you think that is?
That's a good question. I think it's a few things, actually.
Like what?
Well, government agencies are often pretty bureaucratic, right? Lots of structures and processes.
Yeah, for sure.
That can make it tough to do things in new and innovative ways.
And there's also that perception of things moving slowly in government. Right?
Definitely. That can be a real turnoff for people who are looking for, a fast-paced environment.
So a bit of an image problem.
Maybe, but it's also about resources, to be honest.
Right.
Government agencies often have way less flexibility with things like salaries and benefits compared to, private companies.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And when you're competing for the best talent, that can be a real challenge.
But it can't just be about the money, can it?
Nope, not at all.
People choose to work in government for a reason, right?
Absolutely.
It's about the mission.
Yeah.
They're passionate about making a difference.
That's a huge asset, honestly. Something government agencies need to really capitalize on.
So how do they do that? Make that mission come alive for employees?
Well, I think it starts at the top with leadership.
Okay.
Leaders need to be able to explain the agency's mission and values in a way that people connect with, Connect the dots between the daily grind and the big picture.
Not just a mission statement hanging on a wall.
Exactly. And it's not just about words, it's about actions too. Leaders have got to walk the talk.
Show employees they're valued, that their work actually matters.
100%. Before we were talking about some of the challenges government agencies have, like with attracting and keeping good people.
Yeah, like that whole idea that government work is, slow and bureaucratic. And honestly, sometimes it is.
True enough. But there's a flip side, right?
Oh, yeah.
There are so many amazing things about working in government, things you just don't get in the private sector.
Okay, like what?
The mission, for one. It's huge. People in public service are driven by purpose, They want to make a real difference in the world.
It's not just selling widgets.
Exactly. You're working on stuff that affects people's lives, and that can be incredibly motivating. It's something government agencies really need to use to their advantage.
So how do they do that? How do you make that mission come alive for people?
Well, it starts at the top, doesn't it?
Leadership?
Yep. Leaders have got to be able to explain that mission, those values, in a way that really connects with people. Connect the dots between what they do every day and the bigger why.
Make it real.
Exactly. And it's not just talking the talk, right? You got to walk the walk.
Show people you value what they do, that their work makes a difference.
Yep. Now, even with amazing leadership, there's still going to be those bureaucratic hurdles, Government just works that way sometimes.
So how do you create a more agile environment? Like get people thinking outside the box, being innovative, all within those constraints?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It can't be easy.
No, but I think one key is empowering employees to be problem solvers. Give them the freedom and flexibility to come up with creative solutions.
So push decision-making down the chain.
Exactly. And build a culture where it's okay to try things, to experiment, even if you fail sometimes.
Which can be tough in government, right? Where people are often afraid to make mistakes.
Oh, totally. But it's not impossible. It starts with creating an environment where people feel safe, sharing ideas, brainstorming.
Safe to try new things.
And not get punished if it doesn't work out.
It's about building trust.
Yeah, and recognizing and rewarding those who do try to innovate. When you do that, people see their ideas matter. They're more likely to take risks.
This is making me think, it's not just government. These are good principles for any organization.
Oh, for sure. These are just good leadership and management practices, period.
So it's bigger than just fixing what's broken in government. It's about creating a better way of working for everyone.
You got it. And that's what I find so exciting about all this talk about reimagining the employee experience. It's about making work a place where people feel valued, respected, and empowered.
A place where people can thrive.
Exactly. But we've been talking big picture stuff, right? What about the more tangible things like salary, benefits, work-life balance? How do those fit in?
Yeah, those are important.
Well, let's be real. Government agencies often struggle in those areas. Competing on salary with the private sector, it's tough.
For sure. But it's not just about the paycheck anymore, is it?
Not at all. People are looking for a whole package that meets their needs, aligns with what's important to them.
So flexible work hours, good leave policies, chances to learn and grow.
And a sense of community, belonging to something. It's not just transactional anymore.
Right, it's the whole experience. But this is where I think government can shine, right?
How so?
You can offer things the private sector can't. Like the chance to work on issues that have a real impact on people's lives.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It's about being part of something bigger than yourself.
Playing to your strengths, exactly.
What?
And being creative. Even if you can't always match private sector salaries, there are other ways to attract and keep great people.
Give me an example.
Okay, thanks student loan forgiveness programs,
Oh yeah, that's becoming more common.
especially in the public sector. And it's a huge draw for recent grads who are drowning in debt.
It's a win-win.
Totally. And then there's flexible work arrangements.
That's a big one, especially for like millennials and Gen Z.
Oh, absolutely. They don't want to be stuck in the office 9 to 5. They want options. Telework, compressed weeks, even job sharing.
And it's not just about having those options, it's about the culture.
100%. You have to create an environment where people feel comfortable actually using those options.
Like if the boss is always in the office, that sends a message.
Exactly. Leaders have got to walk the walk, prioritize their own work-life balance, and then encourage their teams to do the same.
So it's about creating a workplace where you can be successful and still have a life.
You got it. And when people feel supported, they're happier, more productive, and more likely to stick around.
It's good for everyone. Okay, we've covered purpose, leadership, flexibility, work-life balance. But what about the stuff you can't really measure?
What do you mean?
Like company culture, how much people feel appreciated, that kind of thing.
Oh, those things are huge.
They are.
Yeah, think about it. When you're part of a good team, you feel supported, your work gets noticed and appreciated, you get feedback that helps you grow.
It makes you feel valued.
Exactly. You feel like you belong. And when you belong, you're more likely to be engaged, do your best work, all of that.
So how do you build that kind of culture?
Well, again, it starts with the leaders, right? They set the tone.
Like if you want a respectful environment, you have to treat people with respect.
Exactly. If you want open communication, give and receive feedback regularly.
What about making people feel appreciated?
It's more than just giving out awards or whatever. It's about finding ways to acknowledge people's work consistently.
The small stuff matters.
Oh, yeah. Even just saying thank you, giving someone a shout out in a meeting.
Yeah.
It goes a long way. And it should be tied to specific things,
Yep.
you know?
Not just random praise,
Right. You want to reinforce good work, make people proud of what they do.
which makes them more likely to stay.
You got it. So yeah, there's a link between the whole employee experience and retention, but it goes even further.
Further how?
Think about customer experience. When employees are happy, they give better service.
Happy employees, happy customers.
Exactly. So investing in employees is also investing in your customers.
That's a good point. And I think it's especially relevant for government.
How so?
Well, in government, your customers are citizens.
Right.
And the service they get can have a huge impact on their lives.
For sure.
So if you want to make things better for citizens, you have to start by making things better for the people who serve them.
Absolutely. And the good news is, government is starting to get this.
Really?
Yeah. More and more agencies are investing in making the employee experience better.
Like, what are they doing?
Oh, lots of stuff. For example, the GSA, the General Services Administration, they're doing cool things with workplace design.
Workplace design.
It matters more than you think. The environment you work in affects everything, your mood, your productivity, your well-being.
So it's not just about having a desk and a chair.
Not at all. The GSA is experimenting with different designs to encourage collaboration, creativity, innovation.
Making workspaces more inspiring,
Yeah.
more engaging.
Yeah, and they're also focused on making those spaces healthy, ergonomics and all that, and environmentally friendly too.
That's great. Any other examples?
Tons. Like the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, they're doing a lot to improve employee engagement.
Oh, yeah. How about?
They've got a new performance management system. They're doing mentorship and leadership development programs.
So think about the whole employee journey.
Exactly. And they're really focusing on things like work-life balance, making sure people feel appreciated.
Trying to create a place where people feel valued and supported.
Yeah, and it's working. Employee engagement scores are up. Turnover is down.
That's awesome to hear. It's great that government is taking this stuff seriously.
For sure. And I
Right.
think it's just going to keep getting bigger.
I hope so. This has been really insightful. We've talked about so much, but I keep thinking about those less tangible aspects,
Oh, like what?
company culture, recognition, feedback, all that good stuff.
Those are super important.
Why? Why do you think they matter so much?
Well, think about it. When you're in a good work environment, with a strong culture, your work is noticed, people appreciate you, you're getting feedback that helps you get better.
It makes you feel good. Like you belong.
Exactly. And when you feel like you belong, you're way more likely to be engaged, motivated, and productive.
Okay, so how do you build that kind of environment?
It starts at the top with leadership, setting the right example.
Like if you want respect, you got to give respect.
Exactly. And if you want open communication, you got to give and receive feedback regularly.
What about recognition? How can organizations do that better?
It's more than just giving out awards or plaques. It's about finding those little ways to acknowledge and appreciate people's work all the time.
Those little things add up.
They really do, and it should be specific, tied to something they actually did well.
You're reinforcing those good behaviors.
Yep, and you're making people feel good about the work they do, which, by the way, also makes them more likely to stay.
Right. So employee experience ties into retention. But you said it goes even further.
It does. Think about customer experience. Happy employees mean happy customers, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So when you invest in your employees, you're actually investing in your customers, too.
That's a great point. And it's especially true in government.
Oh, why is that?
Well, in government, your customers are citizens, right?
Right.
And how well you serve those citizens, it can have a huge impact on their lives.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
So if you want to improve things for citizens, you got to start with the people who are serving them.
Absolutely. And the good news is government agencies are starting to get this.
Really?
Yeah, they are. More and more agencies are investing in employee experience initiatives.
Like what? What are some examples?
Okay, so one is the GSA, the General Services Administration. They're doing some really cool stuff with workplace design.
Workplace design, how does that fit in?
Think about it. Where you work affects your mood, how much you get done, how you feel overall.
So a boring cubicle might not be the best.
Not exactly inspiring.
Yeah.
The GSA is testing out designs that encourage people to work together, be creative, and come up with new ideas.
Trying to make workspaces more engaging, more fun even.
Yeah. And they're also thinking about things like ergonomics and sustainability, healthy spaces, good for the environment. That's the goal.
That's awesome. What else?
Tons of examples. The Department of Homeland Security, DHS, is another one. They're doing a ton of stuff to boost employee engagement.
Like what kinds of things?
They've rolled out a new performance management system. They have mentorship programs, leadership development programs.
So they're thinking about the whole picture, the whole employee journey.
Exactly. And they're really emphasizing work-life balance and making people feel appreciated.
So trying to build a place where people feel supported, like they matter.
Yeah. And it's paying off. Their employee engagement scores are up and their turnover rates are down.
That's really encouraging. It's great that they're taking this seriously.
Absolutely. And I think it's just the beginning. We're going to see more and more organizations focusing on employee experience.
Well, I hope so. It's amazing how much we've covered, talking about the employee experience. We've gone from those big, philosophical ideas about purpose and mission all the way to really practical stuff.
Right, like office layouts and student loan help.
It really shows you how much goes into it, making work a place where people actually want to be.
Yeah, it's not just one thing. It's a whole bunch of factors that make people feel valued, motivated, all of that.
And that's what it's about, right? But I'm thinking, if you're a leader, where do you even begin?
It can be a lot.
It is.
But the good news is you don't have to change everything overnight. Start small, make little improvements as you go.
Okay, so what's a good first step?
Honestly, just listen to your employees.
Ask them what they need.
Yeah, what they value, what's hard for them, what would make their work life better.
Get that feedback.
Exactly. And the key is you have to actually do something with that feedback. Don't just collect it.
Show them you're listening.
And that you care enough to make changes. Sometimes the smallest things can make a huge difference.
Like what?
Flexible hours, more training opportunities, making the workplace more welcoming. There are so many possibilities.
Those little things add up.
Oh, for sure. And don't forget about recognition.
Yeah, like saying thanks.
Totally. It goes a long way. But we've been talking about leaders, right? What about the employees themselves?
That's a good question. What's their role in all this?
Well, they can't just sit around waiting for things to change. They have to be proactive, too.
So take charge of their own experience.
Exactly. Speak up about what they need, what they want to achieve, any ideas they have.
Be more than just a cog in the machine.
Exactly. And support each other. Help create that positive work environment.
So it's a two-way street. Leaders and employees working together.
That's the ideal. And the cool thing is, when it works, everyone wins.
That's so.
Happier employees are more productive, they stay longer. And that means better customer service, stronger bottom line. Everybody benefits.
It's true. Well, this has been fantastic. As we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away?
Good question. I think it's this. Making work better, it's not some big mystery, but you have to be intentional. Leaders at every level need to make employee well-being and development a priority.
It's about creating a workplace where people feel valued, respected, like they can do their best work.
And when you do that, magic can happen.
I love that. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. It's been a blast.
My pleasure. I always enjoy our conversations.
And to all of you listening, we hope you found this helpful and maybe even a little inspiring. For more information on everything we talk about, check out the show notes. We'll have links to all the research and articles. And remember, the future of work is what we make it. Let's build workplaces where everyone can thrive.